when it came to family and talking about life and people and things that would upset you, he could just sit there and we'd solve the problems of the world, and we got to be office mates. We talked about, he grew up in a rural area, predominantly white. I grew up in an urban area, predominantly black. We talked about race, we talked about life, we talked about kids, we talked about family, we talked about love, we talked about everything, including TIA craft. He was really good at that. He mastered those numbers around. I'm still working on that, but loved it. And he even listened to the tribute I wrote for my aunt, her funeral service. I mean, it was just great. So I urge you to try to find a way to get involved, to keep an eye on the people and keep up with the people that you meet on campus. I mean, I'd love to hear from you in 5 years, 10 years. Actually, I really want to, because I want you to, in 30 years, if I'm still here, knock on wood. So I can honestly say that being involved on this campus as a student has enriched my life. Not only as a student, as a student, we had something called Campus Service Corps. We would go on the south side of Ypsilanti and feed the youth over there. We would work with them, bring them on campus for visits to try to plant those seeds that this is a place they could come. And many of them have passed through these gates, these doors. But then we had people who helped us. We had people like Chuck Minham, Doc Goins, Velma Clark, other faculty and staff members that supported and encouraged us. And I was active in the Black Student Union. I competed in the forensics team. I worked as a speech tutor. I was a resident advisor. I guess you call that multicasting these days, those different roles. How could I forget that I met the man that I would ultimately bury here at Chapter 1. That's our orientation thing, and that's Kurt, that's him. He's sitting there kind of calm with arms with it. Yes, the decisions that you make in life ultimately determine your destiny. Rosa Parks. Other experiences. And I guess I have this list of all these things I've done. It's like, wow, that's 30 years worth of stuff. But I guess the main message here is I got a chance to go to the 1997 Million Woman March. I met a woman named Dr. Yvonne Calloway on this campus. Now, without that march and that opportunity to chaperone, we were both chaperones, I wouldn't have met her. And our friendship has spanned over 10 years. Right? That was an experience that sponsored by our campus. We got on the bus right out here in front of the McKinney Union back then, and we went down to, where was I? Philadelphia? What was it? Was it what? No, that was Philly. Well, okay, in the area. We're good. Good, Glenn. Thanks, Glenn. We're good. We're in the area. But to walk down the street and see a million women walking around, it was just awesome. And the women on the bus, we talked on the bus, we talked all night, talked all day, talked about life, talked about our futures. Whew, okay. The other thing, being on that MLK planning committee, reminds me of what a wonderful place this is. Because that committee gives us, and I'm sure other committees are like this, but the chance to work with people from all over this campus, students, faculty, staff, everybody, to a common goal. And then you meet these people and work with them in that time of the year, and then we see them all year long. And over the years, like the first time I served may have been in the 90s, and I still know some of those people. Some of us have left through no fault of their own, but they've passed on, many. What else? The other thing I wanted to talk about was recently, the montage. I got a call from one of my former students to be a part of a celebration for MLK Day. And we're going to do Langston Hughes poetry. Oh, that's my other passion. Someday I'd like to go on the road and do oral interp. Let's live that way, just travel around the country and just do poetry. But I got a chance to participate in that. And we had a chance to do our show for a group of high school students. So we were planting seeds for those students. They were in this very room. They were sitting there looking and saying, wow, that's something they could do one day, to be here at Eastern Michigan University. The other thing is leadership. It took me years because of my teaching schedule to be able to experience leadership. When I was off doing one of those things that Dennis mentioned, I was able to go to leadership. And let me tell you that if you can find the time to go, it is the most powerful, wonderful, uplifting experiences. I had a team of students. I was a faculty member with a team of students, and guess what our name was? We were the revolutionaries. Go figure. We're going to change the world. And that's how we started to plant that. And I can't describe it. The activities we did, the discussions we had, the experiences we shared were so powerful that when I see my group, we have reunions. We've had reunions. We're due for one too, by the way. We have reunions that we go to. So if you have a chance, you need to try to experience that. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I was going to tell you all that stuff, but you already know that stuff. I've been all set, okay. Many different parts of the campus, I talked about that. But I guess what I really want to say is we share this planet. Okay, so remember that we share the planet. One person can make a difference. How can we do that? One thing that bugs the heck out of me, it's not big, this is not big, this is little. Have you ever seen people walk around our campus? And just when you get close enough to say hello to them, they look away. Or they see you coming, but they look like over there to make sure they don't have to give you eye contact. So usually in the mornings when I come on campus, I'll get out in my car, park over there by Ford Lot, and I'll go, hey, or good morning, how you doing? I get this look goes over. It's like, wow. And those of you that know me very well, or at least know of me, I'm a hugger. I've heard that you need at least 10 hugs a day. And I try to get like 40, you know. And I have no problem hugging strangers. I've hugged people for the first time, but I always ask. You know, that's kind of careful, I'll get me arrested, so I always ask. Crazy woman, I hug people. But one semester, recently, I taught a class in this campus where I had maybe 6 to 8 students. Every day after class would stop. Actually, it was 2 classes, in spring too. After class would stop and get the hug for the day. And I thought, wow, where else could you? Eastern Michigan University is a wonderful place to be. Where else could you go to class, get an education, and get a hug? Here, okay. So, the other thing is, not only saying hello, but pay it forward. Who's seen that movie, Pay It Forward? You seen it? First time I saw it, I fell asleep. I didn't know the boy died. But I was still practicing paying it forward. And I thought about, well, in my life, how do you do that? Not necessarily something big. Little things, like I was at the gas station right there in Washington one day, a couple of years ago, actually. And this woman was there, and didn't have enough money for her gas. And it was like less than $1 or something. So I just said, I said, take it. She said, well, where's your office? I'll bring you the money. I said, oh, no, just pay it forward. Thought about the movie. Just pay it forward. It wasn't an original idea, but it worked. Pay it forward. Well, don't you know, a couple of years later at the symposium, a couple of years ago, I was at my table, and this woman goes, there she is. There she is. That's the one. I'm like, what the heck? She's the one. They gave me that money that day. I said, yeah, and did you pay it forward? And she went, yes. And she smiled. And I thought, planting a seed. Right here in the parking lot. In order to get out of this parking lot, you have to pay, correct? If you don't have $1, if you're here for an hour, what happens? You have to back your car back up from that thing and sit up and hope that somebody will come by and give you $1 or go in the ATM and get money, correct? So I was there a couple weeks ago. And I'm waiting to go, trying to get back over to court because I came over here to get something. And the car was sitting there. And the person was sitting there. And finally they backed up. So when I drove up and I said, what happened? They said, he didn't have $1. I said, well, here's $1. Okay, and tell him to come back here and walk this line. And tell him to pay it forward. Planting a seed. So my other point is, so embrace diversity, seek first to include. Whoa. Seek first to include. You know, Jane Elliott, I know you've heard of Jane Elliott, right? Most of you seen the video? She talks about, she did the brown eye, blue eye thing. We're really dealing with race. And I guess I need to say that we find all kinds of ways to exclude. You're too tall, you're too short, you're too thick, you're too whatever, you speak a different language, you came from a different place, you're from an urban area, from a rural area, you're not my major. And at some point, we need to make sure that we seek to include. Because think about how the world would be if we sought first to include. What would change in this planet? Neighborhoods, churches. I'll share another story. When I was in graduate school down the road at Bowling Green, Kurt and I went to Mass one Sunday. 1970s. We sat down on a pew. Church filled up. People stood up around the walls. We had a pew to ourselves. That was in church. So I've been on a mission for a lot of years in my life. Since I was 16, the mission started. It was rekindled again in 1970, and every day. And that mission is that each of us can make a difference. That each of us can see something that's not right and welcome people. Sometimes you go to class. We sit in class. It's interesting because,